98-12 request of the Hawaii State Association of Counties HSAC included in its 2013 legislative package a proposal urging the State of Hawaii Chief Election Officer and Elections Commission to establish a mechanism to monitor the county's readiness to conduct an election to intervene if necessary. Proposes a concurrent House resolution, Exhibit A, urging the State of Hawaii Chief Election Officer and Elections Commission to establish a mechanism to monitor the county's readiness to conduct an election and to intervene if necessary. This resolution was introduced by Mr. Palago and waived by the GRC.
Mr. Palago.
Motion to approve Resolution 298-12.
Second. Second by Mr. Blas. Mr. Palago, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The genesis for this is to set criteria and threshold for monitoring and possible intervention. The effort for this, it faces no blame pre and post. But what it does do, it re-examines the interface between this county council, the county charter, and the state constitution. And it would, I see, is re-establish lines of communication which may have been distant in recent times. It also may, by that examination, we may be looking at some possible systemic and structural mechanisms to be put in place. Again, a systemic fix. But it certainly shows that this council needs to take some sort of action to initiate that reestablishment of communication between this county and the state. We may have to engage them. And that's all it is. It's also, as you notice, a motion to include this in the Hawaii State Association of Counties package, because the state association are also concerned about what action this county would take and what action they can do to help. So because of that, I chose the venue of moving the submission as a package within HSAC.
Ms. Hoffman?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I ask Kathy Garson, please come? And my question, colleagues, in order to facilitate this. I think I understand what Mr. Palago is saying in the course of this particular resolution. My question, though, is more, do we have the basis to move this forward? Can it be included, or can HSAC handle this within the terms of the state constitution and HRS? I'm not certain I understand by any reading of HRS that this is the purview of the HSAC or the council to approach it in this manner. So I'm looking at it more being a state law that needs to change if we want to try to involve the state or the chief executive of the state in this effort, chief elections officer, lieutenant governor. That's really the question I'm looking for.
Kathy Garson, Assistant Corporation Counsel. I understand your concern, Mr. Hoffman. I think that what this resolution is attempting to do is just get it before, send it through HSAC and generate some communication. I think you're correct. The state law would have to be altered in order to establish this mechanism. But I think that's what the resolution is trying to do.
I don't have
Ms. Hoffman?
Thank you, Kathy. I accept what you're saying. It seems to be that there's a proposal that we're making urging the elections officer and the commission to establish a mechanism to monitor. I don't think they can do that without a change in the state law. That's, I guess, what I was concerned with. And that I thought the effort would have to be, is more appropriate if we wish to do this, directed at state legislature and not through an HSAC representation.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the actual intent of the resolution is, but it seems to be just to open up dialogue.
Let's have Mr. Palago answer that. Wait, Mr. Palago.
Thank you for the courtesy for inviting me on the discussion. But the intent of this is just like every other resolution that goes to HSAC. And the resolutions that we all pass out of all the councils is that to add it into a package for the legislature to consider if it's something they wish to explore. I'm not telling anyone to do anything. All I'm asking is that they seek to examine what conditions are in effect or in place, and if there are any problems, how do we correct those deficiencies or errors? That's one. The other thing is, it moves to the legislature because it's a legislature who has moved through a possible constitutional amendment, if it comes to that. But in order for that to happen, there are certain thresholds and sets that need to be met first. That need to match the county charter together with the constitution in order for the discussion to come about so we can initiate the separation of powers and authority from from counties and state. But there needs to be some nexus that seems to be missing in this process of even communication. Even communication, and we're having that miscommunication here today. That communication must be established between the county and state in order for both to support each other. And that's all the initiative is.
Any further discussion you'd like? Any further discussion? Go ahead, Ms. Court.
You know, I don't see anything attached to this indicating that HSAC has a concern. So, and I don't remember seeing anything in the minutes that I looked at that they had a concern about this. May I ask Mr. Pilato a question?
Okay, go ahead.
When,
Ms. Ford is especially experienced at this kinds of processes. She knows she submits a resolution from the council with a justification.
Hang on, hang on.
That comes up to, we have to approve it first, and then it goes to HSAC.
Hang on, Ms. Ford.
HSAC dispenses it to the different counties. The different counties give their comment to HSAC. Her own submissions follow the same process. Mr. Hoffman will follow the same process. So will mine.
Okay, Ms. Court, go ahead.
thank you, that wasn't my question. I certainly understand the process. My question, I think Mr. Pilato, unless I misunderstood, said that HSAC board was very concerned about what happened in Hawaii County and was advocating something like this. Did I misunderstand?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr.
I
Pilato.
didn't say they advocated anything. I said there's concern statewide. Certainly we all sense it locally, and the state senses it.
All right,
Everybody senses it.
thank you. I'd like to call Ms. Kawauchi forward to ask some questions of her, if that's okay.
Okay.
When I look at this resolution, I think is more appropriately directed directly to the Office of Elections and the State Elections Commission. I don't see the need for it to go through HSAC, and I don't see the need for it to go to the state legislature. When we want to communicate with another governmental agency, a resolution is the appropriate way to do it. So I'm kind of at a loss as to why it needs to go through HSAC. But that aside, I do have some questions on the legalities of this situation for Ms. Kawauchi. I have asked you to look up the HRS references on elections and who at the state's responsible for what and who at the county's responsible for what. Can you give us some guidance on that?
For the record, please state your name into the microphone and put the microphone on. Thank you.
Jermaine Kawauchi, Hawaii County Clerk. So in response to Ms. Ford's request, I did take a look at portions of the Hawaii Rights Statutes as well as our county charter. And what I can tell you is that I was a little bit concerned as well about some of the statements that were made in the article yesterday's paper, which was the Hawaii Tribune Herald article September 5th concerning this resolution. And one of the concerns that I had to do with questions that were raised and then addressed by the Chief Election Officer's voter registration representative, which is Rex Cadilia, who had mentioned that in local elections, the state does not have any type of rules or procedures related to the management of local elections. I want to be very clear that the primary election held on August 11, 2012 was a concurrent election. It involved both state and county elections. A local election, the way I understand it, is that that would be a county election, which would be for mayor, prosecuting attorney, and for council, county council seats. A state election would involve, of course, state senate, state house positions. And so basically what we had on August 11th was a concurrent election. HRS 11-184 does talk about the responsibilities in combined state and county elections. And in the resolution that was not discussed, so just for council's consideration, that in discussion with HSAC, it may also be relevant to include some discussions concerning the applicability and relevance of HRS 11-184 to the primary election. So that's another section, because in that section it talks about what the state is responsible for, and it talks about what the county is responsible for, and it talks about the combined responsibilities for state and county in a concurrent election. So I think that's important. So I didn't want the article to be at all unclear. In a local election, that's just for mayor, county council, and prosecuting attorney. In a concurrent, it involves state and county, and then there are enumerated responsibilities under HRS 11-184. So it appears that there are procedures in place. So that was one of the HRS sections that had not been mentioned,
Right.
but I think it's important.
Let me do a little clarification here. So also a special election, if somebody quit the council and we had to replace that person, that would be a special election, but it would be a county-only election because it only impacts the county.
That's my understanding.
Okay. So in a concurrent election, would you tell us some of the responsibilities of the state?
In addition to the state's responsibilities that are enumerated in other sections as detailed within the resolution.
Would you pull your mic up a little bit?
Sure. According to HRS 11-184, the state is responsible for precinct officials, training of officials, boards of registration, polling place, costs, and basically supply of installation rentals, ballot boxes, voting booths, custodians, telephones, and maintenance, other equipment, temporary election employees hired to do state work, and extraordinary voter registration, voter education costs when approved by the chief election officer. The county.
Clerk,
Sure.
And Ms. Ford, I just want to make sure that the discussion is really talking about, establishing a mechanism to monitor the county's readiness, because that's what this resolution is about. So let's find some nexus here.
Okay, the next, have you finished with that list yet? Because I'm trying to find out if there's anything in the state code that allows this or already says it should be taking place. What I've heard so far is the state has a lot of responsibilities, and I don't know if they actually did those things. So that's why I'm asking her, going through the list to see if this thing is in here. Would you please continue, Ms. Kawaguchi?
Assuming that Chairperson Gagom's
Proceed.
question or request has been satisfied, proceeding, county is responsible for voter registration, voters list maintenance, printing, temporary election employees hired to do strictly county work, maintenance of machines and equipment, maintenance and storage of voting devices and equipment, absentee polling of employees assigned to do that, and then there are remaining responsibilities that are divided and that has to do with polling place supplies, certain types of printing, other types of temporary election employees, ballot prep,
Okay,
and other costs. So,
All right. So
in essence,
is there anything in that list that says that they have to monitor the county's readiness to conduct election and intervene if necessary? Is there anything other that it's in Mr. Pilago's resolution that is currently in state law? Do they have the responsibility to monitor the county's readiness?
I think, in the spirit of Mr. Pelago's resolution, which is, from what I understand, is to encourage and to facilitate conversations and collaboration, and to do so in good faith, and to do so with with all of the voters in mind, and good governance, basically, as elections is concerned. I think that what this section may be telling us is that not necessarily that the state election office ought to be intervening, but at the get-go, the items that are enumerated under 11-184 are items that they're responsible for. But again, in the spirit of collaboration, it's collaboration between the state and the county. And if that needs to be further detailed and defined and discussed, you know, again, this is Mr. Pelago's resolution, and it appears that's what is being discussed. The only question and thing that I was really concerned about was the fact that there was discussion in the paper yesterday about a local election, and this was not, August 11th primary election was not it was a concurrent election, and therefore these items ought to also be discussed. And if needs to be further clarified with the state, then that might be a good thing and a movement toward increased and better collaboration between state and county, and accountability on for everyone.
All right, thank you. Are you supportive of what's in Mr. Pelago's resolution as far as it goes?
The county clerk, as most council members know, takes no political position on anything proposed by the council.
Okay.
So I take no position on political support or against. I just merely am here to provide information as requested.
Thank you. I'm going to yield at this time.
Mr. Plago, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. If you can hold your chair, please. One of the concerns was why HSAC? And I take this opportunity to route this to HSAC as a privilege. The same privilege that Ms. Floyd has done at least 3 times in her resolutions. And this morning, Mr. Hoffman has done in his resolution. I have the same privilege here, and I call on that privilege to run my resolution to HSAC if I so choose. And I do so choose at this time. And this council can vote it up or down as they wish. I'm going to move on. One of the comments was in monitoring. The elections office has openly and publicly admitted they cannot monitor. There is no mechanism for monitoring outside elections, outside this county's election, for example. Let me correct that. There is no mechanism to monitor this county. Because there is no mechanism, they cannot intervene. And that certainly was proven true in this case. They had no reason, they had no way to monitor, they couldn't intervene and help us out. And they said that in public. Let me turn that around as we look on the county charter. And Madam Clerk, do we monitor our elections? Does the county monitor the elections? And what is the criteria for monitoring? And when is the monitoring reported to anyone? I contend there is no monitoring locally. We all have work assignments for it. We all don't know how well or how poor we conducted ourselves. This simply asks the state commission and the elections officer to set up something to monitor yourself and set up something to monitor the 4 counties. It's as simple as that. I believe if we had that in place, we would not have gone through the difficulties we've recently endured. My concern is that this is late. It may not take care of the general election. I certainly hope and I trust in the clerk and the people and the administration here that we have a good election. But I still have some lingering concerns. My resolution here is actually too late. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, you want to take the roll from there? Let you get to your point. Okay. So the motion on the floor is to approve resolution 298-12.
Mr. Blas?
Aye.
Ms. Ford?
Honolulu.
Mr. Hoffman?
Aye.
Mr. Ikeda?
Aye.
Mr. Onishi?
Aye.
Mr. Pelago?
Aye.
Ms. Smart? Aye. Mr. Yoshimoto?
Aye.
Chair Yugong?
Aye.
Ms. Ford?
Honolulu.
Chair Yugong, you have 9 ayes.
Okay, thank you. Resolution passes. Seeing no further items on the agenda, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, be adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
Good luck.
Oh, thank you.
And if I stumble down Yeah, I know. I know that it was mine. Right, I don't know, great, so I'll check it.
Carrie, being able to estimate, you need to consider their